Hello, Captains. Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, USS Endeavor. And no, this is not clickbait. That's right. I went up against the legendary man himself. The man who needs no introduction. Mr. the one and only MetaJerk. And I know many of you probably know who he is far better than you know who I am. But just wanted to showcase this battle in which I kind of battle it out against him. And, but before that, we're going to take a look at this beauty, which I just got in the Legendary Bureau. The legendary French cruiser, the Henry, which I was planning on getting a video to try to finalize the French cruiser series that I had just done not too long ago. And then ran into MetaJerk, quite literally, and had a bout. So I'm not going to say who wins and who loses, but it's pretty good. Now, before we get into the gameplay and everything, and I know you guys are itching to do that, so if you want to skip ahead, you can, but this is the build that I use, and this is the commander that I have, which is the same that I use for most of my French cruisers, but I just decided not to change it. I just got the Henry, so I haven't been able to really tweak it or change it. I just kind of was fumbling around with it to kind of see if this build would work, and so this is kind of what I have set up, as you can see. You can make a case for fully packed or the main battery reload, lowering it just a little bit, because this thing does have a little bit longer of a reload, which we'll take a look at here soon. In the first mod slot, we're using the turret traverse. Second is propulsion mod to get up to speed as fast as possible. Concealment system mod in the third. And lastly, we did the main battery mod 3. Haven't upgraded it to epic or legendary, although you could make a case for it because, again, the reload is a little slow. To help with that main battery reload, we have the main battery reload booster. And with the fully packed, you get 3 of them, along with the heals and the speed boost. And those heals are going to help. They're not the greatest heals, but it's always nice to have them. And having 3 of them is going to make our survivability just a little bit better than what's advertised. Engine boost, though, this thing gets up to speed and gets up to speed really fast. 20% extra speed boost while active is pretty good, as you're going to see with this build. Survivability, 53,300 before the heals take effect. I haven't done the calculations, but you're going to get a little bit more out of them. So 53,300 is still not too bad for a cruiser at this tier. On to the artillery. A very unique caliber, 240 millimeters in a 3x3 configuration. 11.1 seconds reload time with this build. 32.1 second turret traverse is pretty bad. It's like a battleship, really. The HE shells are very good, 25% chance to set fires, and the AP shells also slap really hard. So the guns make this thing really fun. You have torpedoes, although they're not the greatest. Only 6 torpedoes, 3 on either side. They reload in a minute and a half. They have a range of 9 kilometers. They do about 60 knots, and they just do under 15,000 per torpedo hit. So the torpedoes are not all to put stock into, but they're there. The AA defense is probably the best for the tier, although it's respectable. It's not the best at the tier. But you are going to shoot down some planes. It starts at 5.2 kilometers, but you get the bulk of it at 4.5. The maneuverability, this is interesting. Think of it kind of like the good, bad, and the ugly. Where the good is base speed is 39.2 knots with this build. The bad, I would say, is the rudder shift at 11.2 seconds, which is worse than average in my opinion. And the turning circle radius is just flat out ugly. That sucker is battleship-style turning circle radius. So, plan your turns accordingly. The concealment is still not all that great. Even with the concealment mod, you could get this lower with inspirations. I just didn't use them. As your main battery reload, you try to get that as low as possible. But 12.3 kilometers by sea, 7.7 kilometers by air, and 9.4 kilometers when firing in smoke. Onto the armor. This is a little interesting. Let's talk about it a little bit. 25 millimeter nose and stern makes this being... You're going to get punched through by practically anything and everything at legendary tier, minus cruisers. They can bounce at those, but you have a very squishy nose, so bow tanking in this thing is not going to work. However, at range, you do have a 30 millimeter deck, which can bounce 406 shells. However, things like Yamato are going to be able to pin you pretty much anywhere they want and have a field day with you. Same with the armor belt, which is still only 30 millimeters. So you can bounce those 406s, but that's it. The Citadel does sit slightly out of the water, extends from the front turret all the way to the rear turret like a normal ship would. So got to be aware of that as well. And that's just another look at that Citadel. So the Yamato's going to have fun with this thing. If you can hit it, this thing is fast and maneuverable, and that's the strong suit of this ship. All right, captains, if you skipped all that to get to this point, then here we go. We're on riposte, and as you can see on the enemy team in the Sejong, it's MetaJerk. And I got really excited when I saw this because I've been following MetaJerk for a really long time. He is a great community contributor. He's kind of fallen off on the videos here of late because his love and or disdain for the game has just really made it to where pumping out videos is just... it just hasn't been happening for him. He still streams. I'm assuming to maintain his CC status, but that's just a conjecture on my part. I haven't looked into it at all. But all that to say, you know, regardless of what his reasonings are for not posting as many videos, which is purely his decision and his decision only, he is a great player. He is a great community contributor, and he has fantastic videos. All in part are really tailored towards getting Krakens and ships, which is something that if I tried to do that on this channel, I would fall abysmally short. He just has a knack for being able to make that happen, and a lot of that is with his adage, be where your blue team isn't. And so I've kind of tried to adopt that at times and learned a great deal from him. So MetaJerk, if by some chance you see this video, I just want you to know from me to you, thank you. You've been a great help for me in developing my game, and your content is really, really good. But in this game, I need to take you out because you're on the enemy team and you are a threat. And that smoke cloud that's way out there in the distance on the left-hand side is MetaJerk. Even though he is not spotted, he did a great job of smoking up. And a lot of this video is going to be less of how the Henry performs. You're going to see that as the game goes on, but more of kind of what happens between me and him and the thought process that I have versus his, I guess. But A is going to be contested pretty much the entire game. We have a Smollend out there that is holding the cap. We have our destroyer that is playing the cap. We have a battleship out here. And I'm kind of keeping my eyes trained on if MetaJerk is going to shoot, I'm going to try and help him out. Along with the Des Moines that's out here, there's a lot of action to be had. And surprisingly enough, all those shots that came in towards us didn't hit us. As you can see, we maintained our health. As the speed in this ship, if you've been paying attention in the bottom right-hand corner, this thing is fast. And the Sejong, although I just got that ship not too long ago, don't know how long MetaJerk has had it. As boom, he pops up for the first time, and I finally get to confirm the fact that, yes, that's him. I pretty much knew that was him because I know how the Sejong plays, but because his shells are pretty floaty, he's going to have a hard time hitting me at this range, and that's kind of the point. I don't need him to be close. He has a ton of torpedoes on that thing. They're deep waters, so I'm at threat of being hit by him. They have a very low concealment, at least he's built into that, to make the most out of this thing. He's doing a really good job of dodging my shots as well. And I gotta say, that shot that I just took behind him, for some reason, it just looked like he had stopped and started backing up. But as you can see, I was egregiously wrong, and those shells missed by a mile. So a little bit of a trickery visually for me, and I just completely whiffed. But he's starting to bug out as these other ships are going in. My destroyer, I don't know why he's going towards MetaJerk when he really needs to be playing towards the cap, because that Smollend is still in the cap. The Alaska has popped up, so we're going to shoot at him. MetaJerk is no longer the main threat right now, so I'm going to start focusing my efforts on the Alaska. And here I pop my reload booster, and I'm going to try and get some of these shots on target. And then he starts shooting at me again, which is fine. But the one thing that I failed to realize, and one thing that MetaJerk did really, really good, that you're going to see here in just a second, is he threw his torpedoes on me. And like I said, their concealment is insanely low. And and they actually go a very long distance too. So I get really tunnel visioned on these ships, and I kind of forget the fact that the torpedoes that the Sejong has are very, very sneaky, and they can really hurt when you get hit, as boom, they finally pop up right there, taking me completely off guard and wipes over half my health. So thanks, MetaJerk, for that. I appreciate it. And so now I'm turning out, and like I said, the maneuverability in this thing, if you haven't spec'd into rudder or anything like that, is really tough to turn. So you really got to plan it. And here I because of how early I have played in this ship, I'm realizing, holy crap, the rudder shift in this thing is terrible, and I gotta be honest, I should have taken that torp, which would have been absolutely disastrous, as we would have had 30 seconds left, and there's no way we probably would have been able to have recovered from that. We probably would have recovered a little bit, but we would have been really low, making a push against the cap almost impossible. But here our destroyer has died to MetaJerk. Our battleship player, kudos to him for going in there, but he is way too far forward, trying to contest the cap, and he's going up against that, was going up against that Alaska, now the Smalland, and MetaJerk, who is just going to start making him pay. I think the battleship player got a little frustrated at me as he pinged me and said, "Hey, man, where's my support?" Where I replied, "Yeah, I'm going to be coming in. I'm coming in now." But it was just getting way too hot. I didn't have the utility to really spot the destroyer, as I'm asking for intelligence data. And he's like, "Well, come help me out then." Which I reply, "Okay." So coming back into the cap, the Smalland decided to move out. Now our team on the opposite side of the map has done a really good job. So as much as we haven't been able to really take Alpha Cap, and it's been pretty heavily contested this entire game. At least the opposite side of the map has been clearing. As you can see, the ship count is 2 in our favor. We have lost 2 of our destroyers, and they still have 2 of theirs. But now I'm going to start to focus MetaJerk. That ship that he's in is a glass cannon. So if I can get a good hit on him, then I can really cripple him. But he's doing a really good job of staying concealed and making it to where he can deal as much damage to us without taking a whole lot in return. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, you're in the Henry, which is legendary, and he's in the Sejong, which is a tier 8. And yes, you would be correct. I've outclassed him a little bit. But I didn't get to pick the matchmaking, and I didn't get to pick his ship. And in a perfect world, I would have loved to have him been in a ship that was, for the most part, comparable to me. But it just didn't happen that way, so don't fault me. Don't hate me, hate the game. Looking at the status of the game right now, we are just 1 second away from grabbing the cap. There we go, which is a solo cap, and the ship count is in our favor by 1. We have 2 caps. Bravo's being flipped in our favor, which is going to force MetaJerk to push in. Whether he wants to or not, he doesn't have much of a choice at this point. If he's going to turn the tide in the way that he could, I have to go, and they have to start turning everything over. And at this point, really, all of us have to die in order for them to win the game, because we're starting to run away on the score. We're up by over 300 points. But they have a very low health Des Moines right now, and I know that the Sejong is coming in, which is MetaJerk, off of my left-hand side. And here we go, toe-to-toe. Here is the one-on-one, the battle of battles, but we'll see exactly what happens here. I take a shot, and he dodges masterfully and beautifully, which, I got to be honest, kind of ticked me off. So, but he did a good job at dodging those, as I'm going to go ahead and throw my measly torps on him. I know that as I get closer, the threat of his torps become a very real problem. However, his HE DPM is, although he shoots really fast, those shells are pretty, the alpha damage on them is not that great. And since he stopped shooting, I know that he is definitely throwing torpedoes at me, so I slow down and I turn in. And I am going to make that first set miss, but he wisely shoots his last set on me as he gets it, as I take him out, and we dodge all but one. So we only take one torpedo there, and with our back turrets, as we shoot at the Des Moines, who was shooting at us, we are able to wipe him off the board, and unfortunately, must have been long enough to where we didn't get the double strike. And all of it, their ships end up going down in pretty rapid succession. And I was able to successfully take out MetaJerk as we clean up the last destroyer, and we win the game. So, yes, a bit of an unfair advantage, and I know that if he had been in a little better of a ship, we probably would have sustained a lot more damage. However, he did take a large chunk of my health off the board, as he comes in first on his team and I come in first on my team. Not the greatest XP, but, you know. In the Versus series of me versus MetaJerk, which oddly enough wasn't the only time that I went up against him, there is another video where he and Tommy Boy and Durka, on Durka's live stream, divisioned up, and I ended up going up against their entire division. So that video's on my channel as well, so you could take a look at that too. So that's gonna do it for me today. Less of a review on the Henry and more of just a enjoyable game against the legendary MetaJerk himself. So thank you very much, captains, for tuning in, and hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And this is the USS Endeavor signing off.